two, two,
and we are
two,
live.
2, 1. I think we're live for sure. We gotta be live. I'm getting the hang of this.
Yes.
We're live.
We're live.
Two. I thought I was like in a, I don't know, mind warp all of a sudden. What?
We are so excited because today we're going to be talking about medicinal mushrooms with Julianne Lee from Adored Beast and from Myco-Biome. And you all know Julie pretty much, but for those of you who don't or might not know Julie, can you just very quickly introduce yourself, please?
I'm Julianne Lee. And I guess I'll just give you relevant stuff. I opened the first licensed holistic veterinary hospital in Canada, and that was back in 1997, and sort of been in that sort of pioneer with the pioneers out there, developing nutraceuticals and supplements and supporting raw food feeding, and I think I was part of the research program to do antibody titer tests for dogs before they were developed in Canada. So been on that sort of foundational, cutting edge, pioneer perspective of holistic veterinary health. Prior to that, I was on a human midwife task force. I'm a human homeopathic medicine practitioner as well. So then I decided to take as much knowledge and experience as I had in 20 years of practice using my formulations in practice. And I decided to then, I wound up teaching veterinarians a homeopathic program at UBC. So after I graduated the 4-year program with these veterinarians, I felt like I was in a space where I could step away and then help more dogs and cats and horses and people on a bigger level from a larger platform. I felt confident that the vets were really solid and going to be able to just take my patients and follow through in Canada. And so then I opened Adored Beast Apothecary, which are the supplements that I created and tested and clinically used in my practice and all my other hospitals. I had 5 in Canada. So that's how I met you guys. And we've been selling and supporting and lecturing and educating people in holistic animal health for a really long time, but with Adored Beast for about 6 years. And then a year ago, I decided to do another very large project that I can talk about later, which is not associated with Adored Beast. It's not with Adored Beast. It's sort of like a personal. My mom died, and my mom was a very, very strong environmentalist. And when she died, I was quite upset because I couldn't be with her because of COVID. She, thank God, died at home in our farmhouse with my brother and sister, but they wouldn't let me go back from Nova Scotia to Ontario. And my mom and I were extremely close. She had a dog rescue. It's probably why I do what I do, because I grew up in a rescue. And I decided that we can talk about Myco-Biome later, but Myco-Biome is sort of a project I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. And with the death of my mom, it really got me more focused on it. So we can talk about that unless you want me to talk about Myco-Biome now, but I can talk about it later on.
Yeah, let's start. For everyone who's just joining right now, we're going to be talking about medicinal mushrooms today and the incredible benefits that they have, and also the studies and the research that's coming out now that are actually backing up these incredible properties that these mushrooms have. So yeah, let's dive right in. We're gonna do a Q&A at the end. And for everyone who's has any questions, just drop them in the comment section. We will be dropping links in the comment section for you as well, so you can have a look at all the studies later as well if you want.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess like for me, we came across, well, we didn't come across, but like medicinal mushrooms have been growing in popularity, and Charlie and I, we've been taking it ourselves, and then we've been feeding it also to Milka a while back. And
yeah, it's actually so crazy because like we've been like the whole last year we were like, we're getting through this through medicinal mushrooms, like
through COVID.
Yeah, through COVID. So
because like medicinal mushrooms, like they have so many properties which helps to boost the immune system. So that's what we were doing through COVID. So we've had a brand that makes products for humans, which is amazing. And then that's how I truly believe this is how we have stayed healthy during like COVID. Funny little story, really quick. We were buying one supplement from them, and then they discontinued it, like this mushroom, and then all of a sudden they wouldn't make it anymore. And we're like, in the middle of COVID, you stopped making this amazing mushroom supplement.
Yeah, it was called Immunity Boost. That's why.
Yeah, it was Immunity Boost.
Yeah. Anyway, we since like 2 years already, we're saying like we need to get in a trustworthy, really great medicinal mushroom for dogs and cats. Yeah. And Larry kept saying like, we need to do more research into this. I haven't found the product yet. So when we heard that you were making a mushroom product, we were like in heaven.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean,
well,
so, yeah.
Well, it was it was happening under the radar for quite a while, right? Like probably I've been looking into it I was using medicinal mushrooms in my hospital with cancer cases for, oh my gosh, like since, well, before even, probably for the whole 20 years, because I worked very closely with an herbalist. And, but then when the Penn State University research came out, we used turkey tail a lot for all kinds of cancers. So this is a project that's been brewing for a long time, but I the same as you, I couldn't find one that just spoke to me, right? Like really spoke to me, and I'll tell you why later. But yeah, it's been in the works for quite some time before I actually announced it.
Yeah. Awesome. So I guess now we're gonna dig right into it. We've heard so many amazing things about mushrooms, but I guess the first question that we're gonna ask now is, what are medicinal mushrooms, and like what makes them medicinal?
Well, the different types of active independent components of the mushroom. I truly think that all mushrooms have a type of medicinal value, even mushrooms that you consume, like what that you eat for dinner and that you can go out and pick in the forest, and they're called culinary mushrooms. Mm-hmm. But I'm the more I learn about mushrooms and the more I get into mycology, I believe that all mushrooms have value. The medicinal mushrooms, that goes back, they're ancient. So that goes back so long, like traditional doctors, traditional medical doctors from Asia, traditional Chinese medicine doctors, indigenous, they've been using mushrooms for centuries and centuries and centuries for all kinds of reasons. And I think they have, like, it's almost like when I did so much research on the microbiome, and now the microbiome is getting very and probiotics are getting very common, there's a lot more information, but we're just scratching the surface. And it's the same with mushrooms. Medicinal mushrooms, we're just infants in what medicinal mushrooms have to offer. The main things are from a point of disease are beta glucans, polyphenols, and triterpenes. So those are the ingredients that people pay attention to the most, and the most of the studies and the research are on. And you said something very interesting that a lot of people don't understand, and I mean, I know there's a lot of people that can't get their head around this for many reasons, but particularly since mushrooms have come out, and I've been talking a lot about mushrooms, is about boosting the immune system. Now, I'm going to speak to turkey tail and to chaga. They are, in fact, something called an immune modulator. So the difficult thing about boosting an immune system is that you don't want to boost the immune system in certain diseases like cancer and allergies and things. You don't want to ramp it up with like things like echinacea and really, you know, herbs that really boost the immune system. You want to modulate it. So when people and dogs and horses and cats not so much, but horses, go on steroids. So if somebody's taking prednisone, or their dog is taking prednisone, or they're taking Venectyl P, or they're taking dexamethasone, or they're taking any kind of a steroid, what that drug does is it suppresses the immune system, because the immune system is overactive. So it's overactivated. So you want, from a conventional drug point of view, you want to suppress the immune system. So that's what steroids do. But then often what happens is you get, and the risk, one of the risks, is that you are opening the body, no matter what kind of body it is, to secondary infections, because the immune system is low. Then it's suppressing the immune system. So you'll often see steroids and antibiotics going hand in hand because of the effects of different kinds of bacterias or viruses that happen because the immune system is too low. So a modulation effect is ideal in anything when we're talking about this kind of stuff like chronic diseases or inflammatory responses or allergies or cancers or things like that. If it has the intelligence to understand that if the immune system goes too high, it brings it down. If it goes too low, it brings it up. So it modulates it or balances it or brings it back into homeostasis. So that's one of the incredible things that mushrooms do. It can, if your immune system is down in the gutter, or you're being subjected, attacked, challenged by a virus, they will boost. They'll like rip roar up and up it'll go. But for people that have animals or people that are taking it that have issues with having an autoimmune disease or immune disease that has too high of an immune system, it's incredible for bringing it down and regulating it. So that's part of the process of those chemicals in the mushrooms, along with, you know, creating cell death, right? So creating cell death for cancer, and creating situations in the body where it can turn particular signals, cancer signals, off. So there's a lot going on with mushrooms for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you just said that and I think that's turkey tail mushrooms. There's a study that shows it helps to promote cellular death or cancer death, the death of cancer cells. There's a study. which I think is like, it's incredible that there's even studies and research like this. And I think this is one of the reasons why now mushrooms are getting like gaining so much popularity, because of studies like this that show, wow, there's actually something natural that actually can do something like this.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
and that's
even the other study. Larry wrote a blog post on the topic, so for everyone watching, you can find those on our website as well. But Larry put a picture of the tumor, of the size of the tumor there, and you can literally, yeah, Larry.
I'll just drop it here really quick. But so basically, they did a study on the one of the extracts found in chaga mushrooms, where and in the study they found that researchers found or observed 60% tumor size reduction in mice, which is incredible. And that was I think that was just within less than 3 months.
Yeah.
Study was done. I don't know the exact time, but even if it was less than 3 months, I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, what's really phenomenal, I mean, I've been doing cancer, you guys know that I've been doing cancer research for 4 years at Dalhousie. And the what's important for people to understand is that we need healthy cell death. Our cells need to die. And part of the problem is that they don't, right? So they promote, yes, they promote cell death with cancer, but they also promote healthy cell death for us. Because when we don't have it, or an animal or your dog or your cat, when we don't have it is when the cells mutate and start, you know, overpopulating and becoming cancerous and get out of hand, basically. So the amazing thing, though, what I was going to say is that what we're seeing and what I'm seeing is that not only is it creating cell death in the cancer cells, but it's not in healthy cells.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the difference, because I mean, drugs kill cells, cancer cells, but the scary part about that is they also kill healthy cells.
Yeah.
And that's the side effects that we get when we're using anti-cancer drugs or chemotherapies and radiations and stuff like that. We run into not being able to have the healthy cells survive. Mm-hmm. So, you know, most studies should and usually do include that piece of making sure that, especially when you're doing natural medicine studies like mushrooms and things like that, we're really honed in on does it destroy the cancer cells, but we're equally as honed in on, is it allowing the healthy cells to stay viable, right, and alive. So that's another big important tip when we think about all the cancer research that's going on, when we're looking at cancer from most cancers, from like research from Chaga and things like that are a natural medicine. We're finding amazing results where it doesn't interfere as nearly as much with the healthy cells.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like first of all, I just want to say in the middle of this interview, thank you so much for even, you know, looking into these type of things and creating products that actually, you know, that can help, you know, animals with such a diagnosis like this, or even if we just want to focus on prevention, you know, because
that's huge. Yeah,
you know, because
cancer prevention for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we all have cancer cells in our bodies, but it's just like, and it's not like, you know, it's just sometimes for some people, it's just one day they just find out that they have cancer or their pets have cancer. So this is a great proactive way to say, you know what, I'm just going to take a step ahead of if anything is there, or if
Yeah.
not, then I'm just promoting health.
Yeah.
So for anyone watching, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that that medicinal mushrooms, and particular chaga and turkey tail mushrooms, are really great for cancer prevention and cancer, yeah, helping to treat it as well. But can we talk about just reasons why we should include it into our own diet and our pet's diet?
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other research paper that was really important, though, that was, I think, 2012, I think, Penn State University did a study with turkey tail, iris vesicular, and with hemangiosarcoma, which is a
Yeah, I just
really,
dropped that in the comment section.
okay, good. I mean that was a big opening for more research to be done, and the great thing about that was that it was more effective than anything that they had conventionally,
Mm-hmm.
with no side effects,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big one. And the other cool thing about turkey tail is that for animals that are still choosing to do a conventional drug, if they get a diagnosis of cancer, a lot of times they're showing now that the conventional drug works better in conjunction with the turkey tail.
Yeah.
Right? That those drugs actually work better. Like, there's been a huge study with breast cancer, and using a drug of choice for breast cancer, and then using the turkey tail along with it, and how it actually supports the side effects and actually creates the drug to it's a supportive therapy with the drug. So that's nice, because up until then there wasn't a lot of open heartedness about doing integrative medicine. Even talk to someone about eating well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, they didn't even want you to eat well. They just wanted the chemo to go in and like kill everything. And I worked a lot with vet universities with homeopathy because there was no contraindication.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey tail is very similar now. They're using it in integrative medicine, oncology, a lot, and it's wonderful to see that. But to answer your question about why did you say what else does it do? What did you ask me?
Yeah.
To answer the question, what did you ask me? Sorry.
I mean, and actually, just something that we wanted to add to, I think it was the same study that you just talked about. It also showed that it actually, in conjunction with conventional treatment or chemo, yeah, turkey tail mushroom actually was able to extend the life expectancy of the.
Way.
Yeah.
Oh, way. Yeah. And that's why they're saying that they think that it's actually it's supporting the drug to be able to even work on a higher level, right? So whether you decide to do it like with these dogs the dogs in the study, they didn't use conventional, they just used turkey tail. And the results, the life expectancy was way longer than any conventional drugs. Yeah. So I'm just saying that I like the fact that it people can choose for their pets or themselves. Like, do I want to just do that if that's where they're at, or if they're scared, at least they've got an alternative to add with it, right? Which is very rare. I mean, I always love when I see like almost the healthcare system, whether it's an animal or a person, doesn't matter, when that openness happens from a perspective of how do we work together. I think mushrooms are a bridge for that. Mm-hmm. Right? There's so many studies that are happening that I'm hopeful that it's going to be sort of that it's interesting, because if you talk about mycelium and that network, mm-hmm. and how the mycelium network basically brings, mycelium is the root, sort of the roots of the mushroom. It's what the fruiting body grows out of. It's interesting that when you think of it that way, that it's kind of like a network bringing the two worlds of holistic and conventional together. You know, it's I find it always so fascinating when I see stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of putting it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from, I think turkey tail and chaga are incredibly important for anyone who wants to prevent cancer as well in their pets. That's why we use it for our dog and for ourselves. And apart from cancer prevention and cancer treatment, for what other reasons would somebody decide to use it for their dogs or themselves?
So there's a thing called oxidative stress. And as we age, and when you're around pollution, and if you're eating foods that aren't particularly, that maybe have pesticides on, maybe you can't get to eating food that's as clean as you would like. Oxidative stress happens to everybody. You can't run away from it, but you can speed it up so that you age faster, and you can also slow it down so that the aging process slows down. Mm-hmm. So they both have incredible antioxidant values to help protect against oxidative stress. When you think of a cell and you think of oxidation, think of something rusting, right? So like if something becomes oxidized, it's a very similar thing. The cell becomes rusted, and it becomes diseased, for lack of better words. So it becomes diseased, it becomes old, it becomes less pliable, it becomes less intelligent. It basically starts to decline. So taking something with mushrooms helps to derail that oxidative stress process. So it helps with aging, it helps with preventing any kind of disease. The other things that they have is they have incredible anti-inflammatory properties. So chaga, if I talk about antioxidants, chaga is considered sort of like the king of mushrooms, from a perspective of SOD, superoxide dismutase. So when you even hear the word superoxide dismutase, you can remember that is a key component in decreasing oxidative stress. Inflammatory. We're all watching we've seen so many studies now how chronic inflammation is the sort of the underlying pin of so many diseases, so many, arthritis, organ disease, lung disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, you name it. So they're both anti-inflammatory. So when you think about it, and you think about there's many different things. Turkey tail, they all have all of that. Mm-hmm. So turkey tail and chaga both have all of those great value. Turkey tail has more, I would say, if you're looking at the difference of the two of them, turkey tail has an incredible prebiotic. So it's really, really helps with gut health. So immunity, metabolic systems, metabolic pathways, hormones, pardon?
Allergies,
but they both are very good for allergies because they're immune modulators, right? Turkey tail has something very interesting that it helps. There's studies showing that it helps to reduce staphylococcus. Now, staphylococcus is a very scary skin bacteria, and you hear about it in hospitals. It's often what dogs and cats have when they have allergies. So they get the allergies, and then they get secondary infections from the inflammation and scratching of the allergies. And that is usually staphylococcus, and it's very hard to handle, and then they have to go on antibiotics, and then they get antibiotic resistant staphylococcus, and it's just like the list goes on and on. Turkey tail has been researched to help the body defend against staphylococcus. So to me, with my background of gut health, that makes me go, okay, it must be doing something with the metabolites, helping the particular bacteria, feeding the particular bacteria, responding to that particular bacteria in the gut, that then helps to defend against staphylococcus. Chaga is an adaptogen. You know, one of its differentiating things between turkey tail and that is it's an adaptogen. So when we think an adaptogen is something that helps with the stress response, helps to balance your stress response. When you think of disease and disease process, we know that a huge amount of diseases comes from stress. And animals are no less stressed than people. And if sometimes probably even more, but they don't show it like we do. So when you think of things like Cushing's, and you think of things like aggression or over grooming or chewing their paws because they have anxiety, a lot of allergy related symptoms that I found at my clinic were actually not really allergies. They were actually stress. They were actually the dog started chewing or the cat started over grooming because they were stressed. So chaga helps, when we think of things like Cushing's, and we think of adrenal diseases and pituitary gland diseases, and anything that can be caused from stress. So chaga is an adaptogen, so it really, really helps with balancing out stress.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that yet about chaga.
Sorry, I have my questions here, but I lost track here.
But we kind of talked about the difference between chaga and turkey tail mushrooms now, right? Because that was one of our questions, and something that we get asked a lot is when should I use which one? And I know you guys had a blog post on that as well. And I think you said that turkey tail, more for the ones that have allergies. And then the chaga was.
Well, turkey tail, they both have, it's a little complicated because they have such similar things.
Yeah.
With turkey tail, for me, I look at it, if a dog has an allergy and they keep having to go on antibiotics because they have infections, that's a very strong indication for turkey tail.
Okay.
If a dog has an allergy, or a cat or a person, whatever, and they have a hard time, if they have like really thin skin and they don't have infection, but they're cutting themselves all the time. Like they have really thin skin and they're scratching and then they get a hot spot, but it's not particularly infected. Chaga has an incredible way of regenerating the skin cells. So they both help skin, but one helps infection more so than the other. And turkey tail helps with infection. Chaga helps with thin and rejuvenation of the skin cells.
Yeah.
Chaga calms people down, calms animals down, helps to support the adrenals and the hormones. Turkey tail is very gut supportive, right? They both are, but they're stronger. When it comes to cancer, like actually being fearful of cancer or looking at cancer, they both have huge studies with cancer. And I always look at turkey tail kind of being more larger organ, right? Like spleen, liver, stomach, sort of esophagus, bowel, colon. And then when I look at chaga, I'm thinking more brain, more like lymphoma. Like it's my ideal with that though is to rotate them.
Yeah.
is to do both.
Yeah.
Right. I really believe that they complement each other, and they also, I know this is, I mean, we can go into this, and I love to, because it's part of my passion, is they speak to one another. They help facilitate
Mhm.
and educate the body what to do. And they both do it differently, and they both tell the body different things in different ways, right? So when you're rotating them, if you're rotating them, like, let's say you're using it when if you're an animal is actually sick, then I like doing them like one in the morning, one in the evening, or every other day, that way. If you're preventing, then it's a lot easier. You just go through a bottle of one, or you just use one, and then you move on to the other one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? It's very simple.
Yeah.
They're both pretty simple, really, but you just to me, I love the rotation piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah. We always love rotating as well.
I mean, that's just like with everything that all the supplements that we have. The biggest piece of advice we give is to rotate, because these things, they do different things and they support different areas of the body. So it's always a great idea to rotate, especially when there's nothing actually happening that we can see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the more diversity, the better with everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more you can give the body different tools. It's like, we know blueberries have antioxidants, but would you always eat blueberries and never eat strawberries?
Yeah.
Or apples, right? They have similarities, but they have very specific things as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can give, the same with probiotics, the more diversity, the more you give their body to be educated, the stronger the body becomes.
Mm.
Okay.
So as far as tincture versus powder, that's always a big question as well. So can you tell us a little more about what inspired you to go with the tincture and not with the powder? I can actually show the products here. These are the two tinctures. They're liquids. And actually, I have these here.
Oh, great. Is that what you made your tea from?
This is chaga, for everyone
Okay.
who's wondering. It's actually from Nova Scotia. That's Rodney and Karen Dr. Karen Becker.
Awesome.
Yeah, when we visited them. So they just picked it off a tree somewhere. But yeah, and we also make our own chaga tea, by the way. So you can make them out of the chaga crumbs, or you also, Myco-Biome has the tea bags. So yeah, but what inspired you to make a tincture versus a powder?
Well, that's going to segue into kind of microbiome, I think.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing about microbiome for anyone to understand, first of all, I think that, I don't think there's one that's better than the other, or one company that's better than the other. But I think the really big difference is that, for me, mushrooms are all plants, but mushrooms are incredibly intelligent. And they, from a long, 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 long time ago, living in BC, I spent a lot of time around David Suzuki and UBC and the forestry projects and things like that. And there was a forest project done that proved that the mother tree speaks to the rest of the forest. She communicates with everything in the forest, and she can shut certain chemicals off and send it to certain trees, and she can add other chemicals and send them to different trees. If she's being attacked by, let's say, a parasite or something that she knows that she doesn't want the rest of the trees to have, she can actually shut that down. How they do that, how they actually communicate with one another, is through the mycelium of the fungi. of mushrooms. So in the forest, the entire network of the forest is forest, not even just forest, fields, whatever, is the education and the intelligence and the communication piece of it comes from the mycelium of the fungi. It's everywhere. And it's ancient. It's older than people. It's older than animals. Well, I guess it's the same age as animals. It's when they separated and one stayed fungi and one turned into an animal. But my point is that there's a lot of sorry, let me just see what's there's a lot of talk about medicinal mushrooms and what they do. So one of the big things that you have to remember that they do is that they are like sponges, and they and plants are very responsible for taking anything that's toxic out of the air, bringing it down and putting it into carbon into the ground, and then it gets left in the ground somewhat for all the education, and then it's sent back into the air, and that's how we have clean air. That's how, that's the prevention of global warming, and it's paramount to the Earth's survival. So when I was looking at mushrooms originally, I had a hard time thinking that they weren't growing in a forest, that they were either grown in a sterile environment, they were grown in a building, they were grown, I understand that they still had value, but I couldn't understand how they would have the same medicinal value as they would if they were grown in the environment where the education happened and the intellect happened through the whole ecosystem of everything, from the bacteria in the ground, the bacteria from different plants and trees and things breaking down, and animals, and that gets into the soil, into the water, and then gets basically passed through everything. So one of the first reasons I wanted to do my own mushrooms was because I wanted them to come from a forest and not from a sterile environment or being grown on, a tarmac. They can still be grown on wood, but they're grown on like wood on top of slats that sit on top of the ground, or on top of pavement, or on top of plastic. They're not part of an ecosystem in any way, shape, or form. And sort of then all they're doing is they're sucking in the environment, and then it's like, and then my thought process is, then what? Like, then where does that go? How does that get released? So I know that they're beneficial, but I thought to myself, if they're beneficial growing like that, how beneficial could they be if they're growing in their own environment? So that was one of the beginning stages of my plans of creating my own forests, and being able to wildcraft them to a point, but then wildcraft, and we have to be so careful. Mm-hmm. We are so, as a planet, so unethical the way we harvest our mushrooms, our herbs, our anything. And surviving and thriving, and the reason that I am where I am and where everyone that works for me is because of nature. Mm-hmm. So I really felt that I had to, before I died, that I had to try and somehow give back to what has been giving us, and what started me working in this in the first place, which is my huge respect for nature and feeling responsible to help protect it. So this all started happening at one time. So Myco-Biome, yes, is a mushroom company, but it's the bigger part of Myco-Biome is it's a movement, it's a project, and my goal is to create these forests and go in and get, like, from clear cutting protect them from clear cutting, so old growths, protect them from clear cutting, but then go into clear cutting and try to rehabilitate them and bring them back to their natural state, and then sort of show the world that forests are more than wood, right? They can produce for us so much more than just wood. Yeah. So this is a much bigger project, and what we're kind of doing, I guess, is a hybrid. So we're growing them in their environment. We're trying to surround them as much as we can by what they would be surrounded by with nature. Mm-hmm. But we're doing it sustainably so that we're not going out into the wild and over cultivating mushrooms, which is what's happening with chaga right now. It is horrific how chaga is being harvested. It is, we are going to not have chaga because they are going to, they already are way over harvesting it. So anybody that picks for us, they have to sign affidavits. We have really specific ethical ways of how it's harvested. We won't ever but purchase or take anything smaller than a certain size, right? So that we know that we haven't like killed the tree and the chaga for a piece of chaga that's that big. Mm-hmm. There's on our Myco-Biome website, we have the whole ethical part of how do you wildcraft ethically and sustainably. But so when I started doing that, and you can see our logo for Myco-Biome, it's very, if you look at it, it has a strong indigenous wild, it's a deer, and a lot of the, like, basically it's supporting nature. So, you know, I want to bring back more of the natural wildlife in forests and things like that as well. So when I did that, I was like, okay, I want to go back and I want to see how mushrooms were given in the day, right? Like way back. First of all, unless they're heated, unless they're in hot water, you can't absorb it. You can't. So ideally, a lot of times they would just make tea, but then they were giving them to people. You can drink 8 cups of tea during a day. You can't get 8 cups of tea into a dog or a cat, or sometimes you can't get 8 cups of tea in you if you're sick, if you're feeling sick. So then tinctures started happening, right? So I decided that I wanted to do tinctures. I wanted to stay as close to being authentic as I possibly could. So I started looking at tinctures and researching tinctures. And again, this is years ago. And then what I found is that there's all different kinds of ways of making tinctures. So our tinctures are actually triple extracted. So the extraction process happens with hot water initially to break the chitins down. Mm-hmm. With that hot water extraction, you can get polyphenols and beta glucans, and this is something that's really important with the tinctures. But you can't get triterpenes. Triterpenes have to be extracted with alcohol. They are not water soluble. So in order to get a full spectrum mushroom, you have to do both. So when you dry mushrooms, they're dried in all different ways. Sometimes some products out there, they're dried and they're not hot water extracted first. But often dried powdered mushrooms can't be dried because the drying process is an evaporation process, which means that you couldn't do that because if it was an alcohol, it would explode. So in order to really get the full spectrum, believe me, it's harder to sell liquids. It's harder to sell tinctures. It's harder to ship them. It's not ideal from a perspective of purchasing things, but we decided not to compromise again and be able to produce something that had a full spectrum in it.
Mm-hmm. And you know, like that's just, we say it all the time, but that's why we love Dirt Beast and Myco-Biome now. Like we just love the brand and you know, everyone who stands behind it so much, because that is one thing that you will never do is sacrifice your values for, you know, a little more money or something like that. And I know that making the tinctures is so much more expensive as well than just making a powder. So, and it might be harder to sell as well, but like that's why I think also just raising the awareness about it is so important, because at the end of the day, nobody is helping anybody if you buy a product that doesn't work or is not as effective. And you know, at the end of the day, like these are products that, you know, people are buying for their sick dogs. So at the end of the day, like sorry?
Or prevention.
Yeah, exactly. Both, yeah.
Well,
So
I think there's enough out there that people can choose all different things. So from my perspective, when I did it, it's like you give people a choice and then people get the education and then they make it based on their what they've been educated and what feels right for them, right?
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing with Myco-Biome and the reason that it isn't part of Adored Beast is because I'm so convinced that this project is going to help, not just from the mushroom perspective, but I'm so convinced that it's going to help the world, because that's my goal from a perspective of global warming, our environment right now, our forest fires, our just everything, that we want to be able to produce the stuff. And when I say stuff, I mean, because we also are going to do herbs, and we're doing reishi, cordyceps, lion's mane. We're doing all of it. We're actually, the building that we're doing right now, we have a lab in it, and we're actually creating the spores from original historical turkey tail right now from the forest. Like, we're isolating the spores and stuff. So I want to offer that to, like, for me, I want to actually offer that to other dog and cat food manufacturers, other supplement manufacturers, others. Like, that's why I kept it completely separate, because I want, it's too big of a project and it's too important to me. And I feel like what we're producing is gonna have that intellect that a lot of other ones aren't. I couldn't keep it for me or us. I had to be able to separate them and be able to offer other people to purchase them and put them in their own products. So it's like, again, it's not about competition, it's about helping the world. And that's what Myco-Biome is really, seriously, really about. I mean, even our office is, I drive by this beautiful old schoolhouse that's just falling down, gonna fall down if someone doesn't do something. So we bought the schoolhouse and we're resurrecting this schoolhouse. And I'm like, well, this is so interesting, because this schoolhouse is all about intelligence. And that's what I'm really trying to teach is the intelligence that nature has to offer us through cancer, we just have to just pay attention. We have to, for me, we have to stop trying to put nature in a box.
Yeah.
Right? And we have to get into their box, ask them permission to come play in their sandbox, and watch them, right? Watch it, learn from nature, not think that we're so smart that we can take nature and create all of this crazy stuff. But the majority of the stuff that we're doing is we're learning from them. Yeah. And, you know, I really think that if we're going to be able to do stuff like help viruses deal with different, we're spending so much money trying to find different ways of not using antibiotics, because antibiotics just don't work anymore. It's just that simple. They don't work anymore in a lot of cases. And, you know, mushrooms are a big part of that project, right? Looking at their antibiotic effects. So if they're going to help humanity deal with cancer, deal with viruses, deal with infections, basically help to save people, we better freaking get behind it and support it, right? And not just take from it. Take. Yeah. So that's the project. And I don't care who puts it in their supplements, and so long as it gets out there and the forests grow and more people do forests and more people do forests and more people do forests, because they are producing these like, we're going to teach how to do this forest. That's the goal, is we're going to make this a template and teach other people how to create these forests, because I want these forests all over the world. Right, that's the goal.
Yeah,
that's so amazing.
it is. It really is incredible. And I was actually just thinking about something similar to what you just said the other day, and I was just thinking, you know, the beautiful thing about a lot of the natural industry, not naturally minded companies that are truly in it for the greater good of the dogs, you know, and us included, you know, we want other people like to have access to these things as well, because the more people have access, the more companies have access to truly holistic and truly natural products, the more dogs will be helped, and it will benefit everyone. So yeah.
But no one's going to help anybody if we continue to rape the world for supplements.
Yeah.
Because that is what's happening.
Yeah.
We're bulldozing down forests to get certain herbs to turn into drugs or to turn into supplements, or to like, people don't know kind of that ugly side of the natural supplement world.
Yeah.
And it is. It's getting uglier because bigger companies are seeing now that these natural supplements really work, and they aren't really caring about what we're doing. It's becoming industrialized.
Yeah.
It's no longer natural. It's becoming a multi-trillion-dollar industrialized business.
Yeah.
You know, it's like fish oil.
Mm.
So you know, it's just trying to create a shift in awareness, that every time you see something that says natural, first of all, it doesn't mean that it's natural.
No, not at all.
And
maybe one natural ingredient that's something, that's all it is.
Or organic.
Yeah.
Like, you can put that something's organic on the front. When you turn it over, there's one thing in it that's organic, but you're allowed to see that it's organic. So, but to me, ethical is equally as important as organic.
Yeah.
You know, you can, and just getting people to be aware of what we're actually, like, what's in this, you know, what's in this supplement. You know, you look at it, it's a powder, you look at it, it's like, okay, yeah, that's a tree, that's a plant, that's a this, that's a that, that's a life.
Yeah.
A living, breathing thing that supports the world. We're just kind of disconnected from it, and I'm hoping Myco-Biome is going to reconnect people to nature. That's my hope.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, it's just because I like from a business, I mean, I absolutely love what you're doing, because I mean, I've never heard anything truly like this before in my life. And then I mean, I just think that as individuals, as businesses, if we can do something that makes the planet better, then we should really try that. I mean, in our store, we plant trees when we sell. Actually, every time you buy a mushroom supplement, we plant a tree. We do that for the probiotics as well. I think at this point we're at probably close to 600 trees we've planted since we've opened.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're close to 600
trees.
I never
even knew that.
Huh?
I never even knew that.
Oh, really?
No.
We just planted trees in Canada, no?
Yeah, we planted trees in British Columbia.
Yeah.
Recently, we always every month we look around and say, okay, where can we plant trees? We watched the documentary, and they said like they were cutting down trees in the national forest somewhere. I forgot which country in Africa, but for cacao. So which is like they were doing for chocolate, and then they like completely demolished the field. So we were like, okay, let's plant trees there. I mean, they're cutting trees down everywhere for natural resources. So that's actually one thing that, you know, we try to do better, because I mean, it's just so much going on, you know, around the world.
Yep. And Paul Stamets, he's a big mushroom guy. He's trying to protect old growth.
Yeah.
And he has a a really, you know, he's a brilliant guy, and he's looking at mushrooms from such a cool perspective, like, you know, bio warfare, and, you know, making sure that, you know, we have the ability with these mushrooms to protect ourselves from viruses, from bio warfare viruses, from different kinds of bacteria to different kinds of insects. Like he's done this study with the bees and the viruses that the bees are getting, and it's amazing. If anyone's ever not seen it, they should be watching it. It's called Fantastic Fungi. It's on Netflix. It's incredible. With everybody's doing, like, for people that are doing stuff like that, and like what Paul Stamets is doing and what I'm trying to do and what someone else is trying, they're all different, but they have the same goal. And the same goal is to help the planet, to not forget about the planet, and not to assume that we can just grow it back, because we can't, you know, like my big thing is trying to protect as much old growth as I can, but then try to reforest, especially the stuff that's kind of halfway, that it's been clear cut 15 years ago, right? Because they've already replanted the trees, but then they're going to get cut down, right? You just keep cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting. And that's called reforestation. Well, it's not reforestation. You're not planting a forest. You're planting in an industrialized, it's like planting wheat, only they're trees, because you're just going to go in and cut them all down. And as soon as you cut them all down, you're destroying the microbiome of that forest bed and that forest soil and that forest infrastructure. And you're decreasing the insects that eat the insects that are starting to be a real problem, and you're destroying the birds, and you're destroying he's got something on Fantastic Fungi that's just incredible. Like, he's found a mushroom that will eat, and not only eat and break down oil spills, right? And not just break them down, but once it's broken down, it creates these mushrooms. The mushrooms decay, and then it brings the birds in, because the birds eat the worms that it's decaying. Like, we're all doing individual things, and I'm trying to, like, sort of rehabilitate forests that have already been cut and sort of are on their way to get recut, right? And then I'm trying to offer people that a lot of people sell their forests because they don't want to sell their land. They need money. So they sell the trees off their forest, and they don't even realize what they're doing until that's done, and then it's too late, you know? So, like, clear cutting is it's just not okay, you know, it really isn't. And I think that there's a lot of people now it's just education, right? There's no difference of educating. And when we educate about something like that, ideally what we're doing is we're preventing disease. But we're preventing disease to the planet. And without a planet, there is no people, and there is no dogs, and there is no, you know, there's going to be wildlife again, for sure. And dogs will procreate, and, you know, the world will keep going if we're not here. But why does that even have to happen? It shouldn't have to happen. We should all work together for one cause, and that's to support each other. So.
Yeah. We have one or two questions, right? That maybe we can get to.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Let's pick one out of here. All right.
You can go to the Facebook group.
Okay. All right. So, do medicinal mushroom help to ease seizures for epileptic dogs?
They do. There are certain mushrooms that have a really strong affinity with neurotransmitters. So there are studies, more and more studies coming out with what particular mushrooms have a propensity or a focus on brains, and like with Alzheimer's and things like that. Lion's mane is one of them. that they're really looking into for brain development and brain health. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of research going into that. I think right now with mushrooms, because they've had such a strong positive perspective on cancer, the focus is really going onto cancer and anti-aging and anti-inflammatory. But anytime that you help to break down disease, you would imagine that it would have something to do with the brain. And when you think about it, they all wire and fire and work with the neurological system. So is there one out there right now that I can say that I know a lot of research on for epilepsy? There isn't. I mean, there's a lot of, for CBD, there's a lot of research on epilepsy and CBD. But again, you really want to get full spectrum and you want to get organic. You don't want to get anything that bypasses the blood-brain barrier, which is what CBD does, that is going to carry into that barrier anything that's chemical.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question from Lisa. She's saying she has been dealing with licking and chewing on the paws, and she's done 2 rounds of the leaky gut protocol, and she's now currently doing the relief protocol.
Okay.
She's feeding a raw food diet. The licking and chewing has never the licking chewing never results in hot spots or redness. Would either the turkey tail or the chaga mushrooms help?
Yeah, I think I would start with chaga.
Okay.
If it's not like remember I was saying, if it's not breaking out and sort of creating hot spots and infection or interdigital cysts or anything like that, it has a really strong regenerative process, right? For the skin, it really helps the integrity of the skin. You know, and again, she can do a chaga, then do a turkey tail, then go back to a chaga. You know, again, when you're dealing with allergies, you're dealing with inflammation. You know, you're dealing with too high of an immune system. They both modulate the immune system. So
Awesome.
I would alternate them. Yeah.
Perfect. Then one more question from Vanita. Do the medicinal mushrooms reduce non-cancerous tumor size? If yes, in what duration? Also, if we stop the supplement, will there be side effects?
If you stopped the
mushroom supplements.
Will there be side effects if you stop mushroom supplements? No. There's no side effects, but there's you know, if there's something active in your body and you're trying to derail that activity and you stop it and you haven't sort of also, you know, gone to the core reason of why that activation even happened to begin with, whether it was a long-term divorce or a PTSD thing or something happened to your dog or it had it maybe got a drug in it and it had a side effect from the drug, and then from then on it grew into something bigger. There is a ton, like Larry, you can, for that question, you can show the research with different kinds of tumors, and that Penn State research, I mean, with the hemangiosarcomas, and there's lots of she said benign tumors, right?
Yeah, non-cancerous.
Non-cancerous. Yep. There's all kinds of studies on cancerous and non-cancerous.
Yeah. Awesome. And all right. Awesome. We'll just drop her the link of the study.
Yeah. And we have lots on ours too. We have lots of different blogs and I think Stephanie was gonna put something in the
She did, yeah.
Oh, she did? Okay, good.
She's been very busy.
Okay, good.
All right, I think, is there one last question or?
From Lisa again, but I think we answered this one.
Yeah, we did answer.
So the just in case you missed that one, Lisa, Julie has suggested to use chaga with the relief protocol in your case.
Or
rotating.
Either rotate them or start with chaga, see how it goes, then go to turkey tail, or if chaga's working, just stay with chaga for a while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. So I think that is it for today. If anyone's watching later and has any more questions, just put them down below and we will get your answers for them as well. And thank you again so much, Julie, for being here with us, for sharing your knowledge so freely, for answering all our crazy questions. And above all, thank you for always prioritizing our dogs and our health and the planet, and just never going away from your values. We really respect that so much. And for everyone who doesn't know, maybe we visited actually the Adored Beast facility in Canada, and it's amazing. Like, it's almost so rare to find, you know, a company who's so true to their values. So we are so happy about having you.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm happy that you guys are part of this whole big journey. I mean, that makes me, I always say that I feel like you're my little fledglings. But the wait till Myco-Biome is really up and running, and you can come and do like forest tours and isolate mushrooms, and we're gonna post some pictures, you know, not even the size of my house. We went in, and the person that's managing the actual land, the forest, he went in, and in a very small area, I think he took pictures of hundreds of mushrooms, but I think there was like 27 different species, and like just the tiniest little spot. So
wow, can't wait for that.
I know. I think I should probably put like little tents up, and people can just stay and like hang out.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I know.
All right. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We hope that you learned a lot, and you'll all start using medicinal mushrooms for prevention, and yeah, as well as
and it's something that they can take to their vet, right? Like, this is something that they can take to their vet, because Penn State has so much research, and medicinal mushrooms, like I said, are being accepted and sort of embraced by the conventional community, like your veterinarians and stuff. So it's yeah, and if vets want to reach out to us at all about dosages, I can actually speak directly to a veterinarian, and we can tweak dosages on those bottles. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so long as they're in the care of a veterinarian, I mean, the dosages on the bottles are therapeutic. They're therapeutic doses. But we can even tweak those in supervision of a veterinarian. I can easily speak to the vet.
All right.